בוקר טוב לכולם.
Good morning, one and all. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it yesterday and that you slept well last night. Now it is a privilege for me to introduce Member of Knesset Yitzhak Herzog, the head of the Zionist Union and the chairman of the opposition, and the son of the 5th president of the State of Israel. He has served in 5 ministries and even as a secretary of the government, and was elected in 2013 as chairman of the Labour Party, and in the 20th Knesset he started serving in March 2016 and was in fact competing to be, at the time, Prime Minister.
כבוד יושב ראש האופוזיציה,
Mr. Chairman of the Opposition, I have already said a myriad of wonderful things about you, and I'm sure you're familiar with all of them. But there's something that I have not as yet told them, and I never miss out on telling them that. His Honor, the Chairman of the Opposition, please permit me from this podium, please may I send my warmest regards from Professor Uriel Reichman and to Michal, your dear wife, the wondrous wife, Eshet Chayil, in the Herzog family, to wish her all the best for being the chairperson of the Wall Committee, because she impacts the future of dozens of needy children, deprived children, and I believe that they will be the leaders of our country in the future. So that is about your wife, Michal Herzog. Thank you very much, Davis. Now, if you are wishing my wife all the best and saying chapeau to her, then who am I to say any more and to add? But I'm delighted to see my mentor and my dear friend here, Professor Uriel Reichman, and I see how it's developed and how it has flourished and developed and radiates a kind of atmosphere and such wondrous energies, positive energies, and this very unique vision, which is part of the core and the pith of this conference, that this multiculturalism in Israel and the multiplicity of all the groups, we will one day find not only as leaders of our country and at the helm, but also of the academe. I would also like to thank Professor Mintz and Professor Hoffman, and they, of course, are at the helm in the steering committee and responsible for the content of this conference. First of all, at long last, we have a right-wing government with a right-wing prime minister, a right-wing justice minister, and an agricultural minister, and a transport minister, and they're all right-wing. And in all the other ministries, we have just one officer. And if you know him, well, he's right-wing as well. There isn't any left-winger who's actually polluting the agenda, who you can blame for the various terror incidents. There's no Oslo Accord criminal who's going to curb the terror, to thwart it, break it apart, or whatever of there. And if there are any other words that you'd like to choose and invent them, please just send them to Naftali, Bennett and Mr. Lieberman's mails, because what happened in the end after all the tweets and the Twitters and the bombastic declarations? Nothing happened. Nothing emanated from it all. So if there's someone you can blame for it, and it's not the left wing, then you might as well blame the arch enemy in the United States. And then who will finance the entire aerial defense system in Israel when it's so obvious to all of us that there is another round of assault on its way? Who will defend the Sderot children and all the other children? We can't bring Ronald Lauder to finance all that. We're now in a period with a terror wave that is going up and down and carrying on, and the Stabbing Intifada, and after that you've got the Klachnikov Intifada, and civilians who are frightened of even walking down the streets of Tel Aviv. And just a few days ago, there was a nice sort of reminder of it all in Ra'anana. We saw it, Beersheba, Jerusalem, Kiryat Gat, all over. It has been going on. And now, what is the greatest mistake of the right-wing government? That there's no left-winger that you can really blame and accuse of all this, that they are to blame for it. So yes, so as the kid said, Bob Sponge. They said that you have to stay in Lebanon and sacrifice soldiers, hundreds of them, in order to protect the northern border. And then Ehud Barak came and he took us out and extricated us from Lebanon. And yes, there was a political arrangement and settlement. It wasn't ideal, but the farmers in the north are working and our tourism is stable and burgeoning. And this sort of the tumultuous land that we live in, and we're marking now 20 years since the Second Lebanon War. But the historic decision has actually found itself to have been 20 years on a very well calculated and considered decision. So if this continues, it'll be the end of the Zionist endeavor and the Third Temple destruction. So then Yitzhak Rabin understood what the situation was, and Shimon Peres, may he live a long life, and they went and spoke to Arafat, the head of a terror organization, definitely, and they sat down with him and they turned the PLO organization, instead of a murderous terror organization, into a diplomatic organization that is coordinating. Yes, they have conflicts with us, but coordinating with us on security issues. So the right wing sort of Menachem Begin said, I will not give 1 inch. But in the Prime Minister's office, sitting there, however extremist he may have been, where he knew that he has to decide on the destiny of your own citizens, he took the decision that a good, strong leader should take, preferring life above death, even if it was totally opposed to his ideology, taking a very tough personal decision, unprecedented for that status as the chairman of the Likud party and the head of the Likud party. Just as Yitzhak Rabin also became the same and built a whole mythology of sacrifice that was unprecedented, and Ariel Sharon did it in the battlefield and with bloodshed against the terror. And it wasn't in the battlefield of Twitter and Facebook like this government seems to think that that is their battlefield. So Sharon did something that was inconceivable and very similar to his predecessors. He took a step in order to save the lives of soldiers and his civilians and decided to lead that process of the disengagement. And alongside that courage of Peres, Sharon, Begin, Rabin, they did not vacillate whatsoever, 1 iota, to hit at the terror or to any terror threat against the country. If we're talking about the destruction of the actual facility in Iraq, the reactor, Paris didn't fear lead heroic missions in order to release hostages and anything that was necessary. Those four took those steps. Begin, Rabin, Peres, and Sharon did not vacillate. They did not hesitate, putting their political, personal destinies on and sacrifice it on the altar for the sake of saving the lives of their citizens. And why am I telling you all this? Over the last months, in the light of this present wave of terror, wherein dozens of Israelis were killed and injured, I identified a new path, an opportunity, a rare opportunity for regional peace, an opportunity that suddenly was there on the horizon, working with regional people directly and indirectly. I can say that I have led with many an important leader that were prominent, working independently and interwoven, working together in order to implement this idea. Although this cooperation of the regional countries with Israel is not a new idea, Kobi Uberman and Israel Initiates are here with us, and on full speed they've been trying to work with that idea, and it's been fully expressed here at the conference. But perhaps this could truly come true for the sake of this immense vision of a two-nation solution and the idea of peace. The idea that moderate Arab states are willing to become involved in a political peace process with us. It is a unique, rare opportunity. Abu Fattah al-Sisi, who is a daring, courageous leader of Egypt, who has been calming the whole area, curbing the radical forces, said in a historical speech, he said, it was very vehemently said, he said, and it created an opening up, a breakthrough. And it wasn't only Egypt. We're talking about Jordan, the Emirate States, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Kuwait, Bahrain, and others who have been potential start partners and are so, to create a possibility of stabilizing the region. And I'm including in those the Palestinian Authority, in contrast to the previous Arab leaders, the previous generation in Camp David II, that generation. Those leaders of these countries are suffering less of an Israel complex. They are more daring, younger, and more independent, and willing to work with Israel as long as it truly serves their national interests. These leaders are willing to deal in these very important topics, important subjects and issues for both sides. The aspiration of the Palestinians for independence and recognize Israel's security needs. Listen again to Sisi's speech. They see the speech, the peace initiatives, Saudi Arabia ones and the others, and they've been listening to them for many years. These moderate Arab nations are cohesing into some kind of Sunni version, a non-formal Arab version of a regional NATO in the Middle East that recognizes the threats that Israel recognizes, the same ones. And this new composition has been stabilized here in order to try and curb the dissemination, the promulgation of this hatred in the area, this hatred and the evil. This is an alliance that is also threatened by ISIS, that is continuing to wreak havoc all over. So you can see the diplomatic security negotiations with Israel and the collaboration here with Israel has been a very positive potential that is embedded in it. But this must be solved. There must be kind of solution for the whole Palestinian conflict. And they know that is a prerequisite for the upgrading of their ties with Israel. And so therefore they are asking of the Palestinians and the Israelis to take concrete steps and to be part of this regional proximation that they are hungering for, because they want to see the Palestinians and the Israelis reaching this kind of of peace. It's part of the regional agenda based on the principles of the Arab initiative and a deep understanding of the security needs of both sides. The lessons that we have learned from history have taught us that trust between the Palestinians and the Israelis does not suffice, which does not exist, by the way, in order to reach a solution. That basically is the lesson that Camp David 2000, the fact that the Arab leaders completely abandoned the process, leaving Barak and Arafat to leave things alone. And then, of course, the danger and the collapse was imminent. But then in Paris, every single speaker started by saying the regional forces will bring about the change. So now there is a golden opportunity that the United States should spearhead, that the international arena should relate to and give its tailwind to. And with a daring step, we will be able to substantiate this process and create a better future. And I and my colleagues and partners in the Zionist Union see this as a window of opportunity that could ultimately bring about a vision of a two-state solution. And here I'd like to go into the political side. But in order to implement this step, then an Israeli government is necessary with a different composition. So they will understand how they need to build confidence-building steps between us and the Palestinians, steps that have been curbed and thwarted time and time again by the residents of Judea and Samaria and the government. And again, a few weeks ago, when I understood that this is a historical opportunity to change the whole character of this region, I understood that I must take steps. I know I will have to pay a very high price in my image. I might even lose my mandate and my seat, and perhaps I'll never be forgiven, some of my supporters, but I decided, because it is my role, that is what I believe in, and that is my credo, because this opportunity will not recur in the next few years. So here in the government that has no left-wingers, already some of the senior officials in the Ministry of Defense who have declared to the leaders of the region about a war pending in the near future. And pay attention to what I'm saying. A war is no game. It is prohibited that that kind of decision should be in trigger-happy fingers. That should never become a media opportunity for irresponsible threats in order to position a political position of a politician. Therefore, Israel, it's incumbent upon them to be cautious of bombastic statements and to be, because words can very often ignite a fire and create terrible destruction and terrible disappointment. There is another path that is an alternative one. Yes, even with Gaza Strip, in order to prevent additional funerals and additional campaigns, it's incumbent upon us not to miss out on that, and that is to envision and understand those windows of opportunity. And therefore, I opened the door for Netanyahu, and that is why I offered him my hand, and I said to him, you are the engine of the right, and I am the engine of the left. Behind us there is a wagon with mothers and fathers and children and soldiers and elderly people and industry and economy that are losing their employees and their export, and the various ethnic communities all on that long train, and nurses and social workers, an entire state with all its wondrous parts of that mosaic. But nothing will manage to move forward unless you build that train and set it out, embarking on a journey of new hope. And I said to Netanyahu, you You've been here in the government for 10 years, and you keep claiming there's no one to talk to. Now there is someone to talk to. Why should we only do it in the aftermath of another war? Why should we now just fill out our military cemeteries? No, but Bibi preferred his political survival and a very full right-wing government. So all I can say in conclusion, but in chagrin, is that the right-wing engine did not succeed in turning his engine on. And when that wagon is ahead of the engine, it means just one thing. It means that it has fallen off the tracks, and that engine must be exchanged.
Thank you very much, Chairman of the Opposition. I think that the train metaphor is precisely the right link in order to present the next speaker, who is the Minister of Transportation.